This is a reading from James Herberts' Creed book. The first thing you ought to know about Joseph Creed is that he's a sleaze of the first order, maybe even of the grand order considering his trade. The second is that he's our hero, not by choice. Incidentally, is he the latter? Not by his choice anyway. Let's just say circumstances and his own inglorious nature conspired to make him so. His trade? Taking candid snaps of the rich, the famous, or those who fall into that loose category of celeb. Ideally, these snaps are of the kind the subject, or victim, would prefer not to be published. Of course, the less preferred the higher their value on the media market. Creed, then, is a paparazzo, a scavenger lensman, some might say. Paparazzi is the plural, or reptiles as their prey might refer to them. There are other descriptions. Parasites, leeches, vultures. Scumbags is very popular. But lest we be too hard on them as a breed, it should be said at the outset that there are some exceedingly nice members of the paparazzi, some who even behave like gentlemen on occasion, and yes, even those who are trustworthy. Unfortunately, Creed isn't one of them. Sometimes, no, often, his own kind, fellow photographers, snappers, smudgers, monkeys, shunned him, although it should be said that envy played some part here, for Creed had an upsetting knack of capturing on film the almost impossible, of snapping the unsnappable. They thought his methods were despicable. Something else that rankled with a few of the others in his male-dominated profession was his success with women. As a rule, you have to be disliked in the first place for this to annoy others. His romances, to use an unfashionable term, seldom lasted long, but they were frequent, and 3 times out of 5 his partners were definite lookers. He himself, you see, looked a little like Mickey Rourke, the actor. Mickey Rourke at his sleaziest, if you can imagine that. And when he smiled, his knowing, almost mocking smile, women knew, they just knew he was trouble. And God help them, that was his allure, that was what intrigued the ladies. They sensed he was a shit, and it was true to say he rarely let them down in that respect. Still they went for him, still they dipped in a toe, and still they were upset, though not surprised when they got scolded. Women aren't easy to understand. He had other bad points. Joe Creed could be a mean, selfish, disreputable. He was a moral cheat, both amoral and immoral, although in his favour not all the time. He could be tetchy, obstinate, cynical, and if he thought he could get away with it, belligerent. He had friends, but no good friends. And yet he was tolerated by establishments which would never entertain others of his professional ilk. Another point of envy. He was allowed to drink in the bars of several in-place restaurants and clubs when on duty, provided his cameras were out of sight, and the doormen and bouncers of the trendiest and most elite London nightclubs would always tip him the wink if there was a worthy celeb inside. This was mainly because Creed himself was a known face, having haunted these places for so many years now, and his name, because it had so often appeared beneath photographs of the rich and glamorous, was also known. He had himself become an integral part of the celeb circus, or circuit if you prefer. As well as that, he knew how to grovel when the occasion demanded, and into whose hands to drop readies when required. So that's our boy, a rough idea only, but you get the picture. He's sleazy but good at his job, dislikable yet interesting to certain women. Accepted, though perhaps not respectable. You might like him, you might loathe him, maybe there'll be a balance between the two. Unfortunately, the circumstances in which we first meet him aren't too endearing. He's